My father-in-law told the table I had never done a day of real work. My wife's grandfather, 91 and silent all evening, asked him what he thought had built the porch we were sitting on. Gerald poured himself a third glass of wine and leveled his eyes at me across the table. Marcus, he said, loud enough for the whole porch to hear. Serious question. Have you ever in your entire life done one honest day of real work? My wife, Dana, set down her fork. Dad, stop. It's a fair question, sweetheart. He waved her off. Your husband sits at a computer. He consults. He put air quotes around it like the word was a bad smell. I built 2 dealerships from nothing. My hands. This man wouldn't last an hour on a real job site. I'd heard versions of this at every dinner for 6 years. I'd learned to let it slide off, so I just smiled and reached for the bread. Nothing to say, Gerald grinned. That's what I thought. At the head of the table, Walter had not said a single word all evening. Dana's grandfather, 91, sharp as a tack, hands like tree roots. He'd been quietly working through his plate while his son-in-law performed. Now he set his fork down with a small click that somehow silenced the whole table. Gerald, Walter said. His voice was low and dry. Let me ask you something. Sure, Walt. This porch we're sitting on, Walter tapped the boards with his cane. Who do you think built it? Gerald laughed. I don't know. Some contractor. Before my time. Wrong. The word landed flat. Gerald's grin flickered. 2 summers ago, Walter went on. This porch was rotted through. You remember whole east side sagging. I couldn't get up my own back steps. You told me you'd handle it. You said you'd hire a crew, and I did. You didn't. Walter's eyes didn't move. You told me for 4 months you were getting quotes. Meanwhile, I'm 90 years old going out the front and around because I can't trust my own porch. You want to tell the table what you actually did about it. Gerald's jaw tightened. I was busy, Walt. The business? You sold the business in 2019. Walter turned his head slowly toward me. You know who fixed it? This one. Every face at the table turned. Marcus called me that August, Walter said. Asked how I was getting on. I mentioned the porch. Next Saturday, 7 a.m., he's in my driveway with a truck full of lumber. No crew. No bill. Just him. Grandpa. I started. Let me finish, son. Walter's mouth pressed into something that was almost a smile. He tore the whole thing down to the joists. I sat in that lawn chair and watched him do it. Every weekend for 2 months. 100 degrees in July, this man on his knees setting boards, and when I tried to pay him, he wouldn't take a dime. Said Walter. Your family. The porch had gone very quiet. Gerald's face had drained to a strange gray. So, Walter said, tapping the cane again, harder now. When you tell my table that Marcus has never done a day of real work, you're sitting on the proof that you're a liar. You're eating your dinner on it. That's not. Gerald's voice cracked. I offered to pay for the materials. You never offered anything. Walter's tone never rose, and that was what made it terrible. I called you in September and asked if you knew your son-in-law had rebuilt my porch. You know what you said, Gerald? You said, good, saves me a headache. Then you told your golf buddies you'd taken care of the old man's place. Roger repeated it back to me at the pharmacy. Word for word. Gerald opened his mouth and nothing came out. For 6 years, I've watched you sit here and belittle this boy, and every time I kept my mouth shut because it's not my house and it's not my marriage, but it is my porch. He set both hands on the table, and I've decided I'm done being polite about who actually shows up in this family and who just talks. He reached into his jacket and laid a folded paper on the table, slid it toward me. That's the deed to the lake cabin, Walter said. I had it drawn up last month. It's yours, Marcus. Not because you fixed a porch, because you're the only man at this table who did something without needing an audience to watch. Gerald stared at the paper. You can't just. I'm 91, Gerald. I can do whatever I damn well please. Walter picked his fork back up. Now, somebody pass me the potatoes.